All right, guys, welcome into the full 2023 version of my stadium database. I'm sure a lot of people seeing this wondering what's going on here. I'm going to explain everything, all the projects happening. This was just made by me. This is my little database that I use to keep track of what's going on. You know, there's really no official website. I know there are different stadium sites, but they don't really seem to update them, and they don't kind of have the custom look to it that I want, with the rows and the categories all laid out and the current status of the projects. This is something that's very easy to update. These are things that take time to develop. It's not like we're going to be getting 5 or 6 updates per day. It's more like one every 2 weeks. So this is NFL, MLB, you've got NBA, you've got NHL, you've got college football. I'm probably missing a few potential projects, but this is what is this? Oh, I think this is my other, this is from my other computer. Either way, guys, I'm just going to go through this and kind of explain all of the projects happening right now in 2023, whether it's a renovation or a rebuild or a new stadium. So we do have the Bills' new stadium opening in 2026, a budget of $1.5 billion, and it is currently in the early stages of construction. It is scheduled to open in 2026, the fall of 2026. That is happening. That's confirmed. They've already broke ground. You've got the Titans' new stadium. I believe it was delayed by a year. Originally, it was supposed to open in 2026 as well. It's been pushed to 2027, happening in Nashville, Tennessee. It's in the planning stage, so I have it in green just to kind of color code it. And once construction does begin, I will change it to the construction stage, which is blue, because I kind of think blue is like maybe even a more optimistic color. You know, that means it's happening. Green is like, there's renderings, but it's not officially being done. And you can see the roof type with Buffalo, they're going with kind of a canopy open design. And with the Titans' new stadium, that's around $2.2 billion. It is a translucent fixed closed roof. You have the Browns stadium rebuild that's been talked about possibly happening, in 2025. I believe it would open, the new Browns stadium after the rebuild would either open in 2026 or 2027. So I might have to change that, but it's going to be costing $1 billion if it does happen, and there are no official renderings on that. But the early rumor was the Browns were not going to have a retractable roof. I'm guessing there'll be a big overhang. That seems to be the new vibe with kind of how these stadiums are going to be designed. The Jaguars are planning. They have to get a stadium rebuild at some point. TIAA Bank is a horrible place, and it's not terrible, but it is not NFL standard. So they have the lease coming up in 2030. They're planning it. There was an idea about a few weeks ago. Does this rebuild happen in 2025? Where are they going to be playing? They might be playing at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, but that is being planned, and I would think that's going to be happening probably around $1 billion, maybe more if they do add a retractable roof. It is Florida, so they might decide to do that, or it'll be an overhang, I'm sure. The Panthers also, we don't know what's going on with their potential rebuild. We heard about 2 weeks ago there was a $1.2 billion plan in the works. This is something that I had speculated a while ago was going to be happening because the Panthers' Bank of America field is just not up to standard. And it's just 2 walls of seats. I said they needed a rebuild. It's going to be happening. When is it going to be happening? Probably 2026. And they might have to play somewhere else if that does happen. I think they just need a straight up new stadium. And if they do get a new stadium, I'll just change this to a new stadium. The Paycor renovation, so that's a possibility with the Cincinnati Bengals. There was a few renderings that were floated out, like in 2018, 2019, about a jungle theme for Paycor Stadium, which was Paul Brown Stadium at the time. They need something. It's getting too old there. I don't know what it's going to be, but I would imagine $300, maybe $500 million in a mid-2020s renovation to their stadium, and probably introduce some type of jungle vibe, really, and take advantage of those Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase prime years. The Commanders' new stadium, so we are expecting the Commanders to build a super stadium at some point, maybe by 2030. I would say ASAP, because their current situation with FedEx Field, it is the worst stadium in the NFL. By the way, the Paycor I put as a theory, because there really is no recent news on it, so it's kind of just a theory. It's not my theory, but it's going to be happening. I'm telling you guys, Paycor will be renovated in probably 5 or 6 years. The Commanders, they are planning a new stadium. I don't think it's going to be at Oxon Hill. It's probably going to be in Northern Virginia, but it is going to be a fixed roof, translucent roof, very likely type stadium, unless they totally throw away the Schneider ownership plans. I would expect it to be something like that, probably in Virginia, though. The Jets' new stadium, so yeah, this is more of a theory by me, but it's also been rumored. I think the Jets see the writing on the wall. MetLife is a dump, and it's not a situation to where, okay, MetLife is old, we're going to leave anyways. No, MetLife opened in 2012. You're pretty much stuck there unless you get out of the lease. The lease is coming in 2025. I think the Jets will sign on for 5 more years, but in 2030, I do see the Jets building their own stadium, and I'm guessing it's going to be retractable, probably in 2030. The Broncos, this is just, this would have to happen in like 2030, 2031. You know, I don't mind their current home, but what is it, Sports Authority Field at Mile High? You know, it's decent. It's like a mid-tier stadium. I do think the Denver Broncos ownership is a little bit pissed off. It seems like a missed opportunity. Denver is a massive city. They would be able to host these huge events if they had a retractable roof. So maybe that ends up happening. They did put out a survey to their season ticket holders this past maybe last offseason, and they said, what do you want in a new stadium? So maybe. And then, of course, we know the Arlington Heights project that very likely will be happening. Justin Fields came out. He said, I want a roof. Everyone in Chicago wants a roof. It will be a fixed roof, and it's going to be a $5 billion campus, very likely in Arlington Heights, that is going to be a complete... They're tearing everything down. They've bought all these acres, and they're going to redesign the entire area. Very likely. There's also the idea of a Soldier Field renovation. I don't think that's happening. I could add that, I guess, but... All right, moving on to the MLB. So we do have the Royals' new stadium currently in the planning stages. You know, supposedly going to open in 2026, supposedly going to be open. It's very early with this. I don't think it's plausible right now. Well, they do have renderings, but I don't know. I'm skeptical on this one. We'll have to see. Maybe it gets pushed back to 2027. The $2 billion cost is a little curious. I wonder if that's the entire area. Normally, with open MLB stadiums, they're not going to cost $2 billion. The A's ballpark at Howard Terminal, I put it for danger because I don't think it's happening. It's very unlikely at this point the A's stay in Oakland. If they do, it would be a $1 billion project. Actually, I think a $12 billion total overall cost, but the stadium would be $1 billion. The surrounding area would also be developed. But that would be an open stadium. It's probably not going to happen. The Vegas A's new ballpark located in Las Vegas. It's been rumored for the past month, $1.5 billion. It's in the planning stage right now. They've got some legal stuff. They've got some land disputes. They've got funding issues to deal with. Very likely going to be a retractable roof, and I think it probably happened. So the A's will probably move to Vegas. The Progressive Field renovation, that is coming in 2024. They're redoing the entire upper deck after they botched it the last time. So, and they're also taking out more seats down the third base line of the upper deck. So Progressive Field is basically a shell of itself. It's so sad what's going on there. but just people are not going to the games, so they're just making it social spaces. The Rays' new stadium in the planning process, we'll have to see what happens. Do they stay in St. Petersburg? Do they move somewhere? Maybe Orlando? We will see. I put 2026 as a question mark. The lease is up at Tropicana in 2027, so maybe they would move into their new stadium in 2028. The Rogers Center, ongoing renovations happening basically right now. Obviously, the stadium is not under construction right now, but it's a multi-phase process. We saw them redesign the upper deck, and now during next offseason, it's going to be a complete reconfiguration of the lower bowl because it was a multi-purpose. They've got a wall of lower bowl seats. It's going to be completely redesigned and custom, and it should expand the Rogers Center lifespan by at least 15 years. That's a solid renovation for $350 million. It was clear Toronto had two options. Either fork over probably $2 billion on a new stadium or pay, roughly 10% of that, 15% of that for, renovations that'll keep you there for 20 more years. The Angels Stadium renovation, it was possibly going to happen. The renovation, the renderings for it were very strange. I think they need a new stadium. That ballpark's been through hell. It's been through 20 different renovations. It's just too old. So we'll have to see what happens there. American Family Field needs a renovation. They're asking for money, roughly $300 million. They've been really loud about trying to get a big renovation, and they do need a complete redesign of the entire outfield seating. So American Family Field, it does seem like it's time. When you look at some of the other stadiums like Progressive Field getting money dumped into them, American Family Field's a little bit more new, but it's very similar. So I would say that's going to be happening, and they're kind of planning that right now. Chase Field renovation, that's been thought of. Something needs to happen with Chase Field. I don't know what it's going to be. I also put down here Diamondbacks' new stadium located possibly in Scottsdale. That seems a little bit far-fetched, but you never know. Probably one of those two things will be happening by 2030. You have the potential Citi Field roof renovation where Steve Cohen got a quote for how much a roof would be, around $800 million. I do think it is inevitable that they will add a roof. I know it's shocking, but just looking at the footprint of Citi Field, it can be done. And we are getting significant rain in the northeast area of the United States to where it just seems if you're a billionaire, why not flex? And, they're not going to tear down Citi Field and build a new stadium. That thing was open in 2009. So, you got the Yankees who don't have the roof. Why not flex some of your money and build a roof, and protect your fans from the elements? It's just so much easier, I think it'll happen. And then we have all the expansion ballparks. So Nashville, I do think they get an expansion team. They have a ballpark operation. They've got a team that they've put together, and they have some renderings. Orlando, we heard about their renderings. Utah, the Salt Lake City renderings. Portland, Oregon, they've really had renderings since like 2019. And then Montreal has always been kind of talked about. So that's kind of what's happening with the MLB. I'm not going to include any scoreboard change or if it's going to be on this list, it has to be a major project that's changing the stadium, whether it's a new stadium or it's a renovation. Moving on to the NBA, the big headliner with the NBA, really not much going on. It's the Intuit Dome. It's going to be opening in the fall of 2024. Costing $2 billion. It'll immediately become a top 5 venue in the NBA, probably top 3 with Steve Ballmer and the investment they're putting on fan, happiness levels, the most bathrooms out of any stadium in the NBA. And then the only other stadium that is planned right now is 76er Place at Market East, but that one's kind of wonky. It's not scheduled to open until 2031, and it has received some pushback. It's very hard to take it seriously right now because it's not scheduled for so long. The Crypto.com renovation, I don't know how much it costs. I couldn't find where. It would probably be like $300 million, but it is a pretty big redesign. If you don't know, they're putting in a window at the former Staples Center, the home of the Lakers. A window is going in. They're taking out seats of the upper deck. So it's pretty nice. I like what they're doing. I think that's the future of renovating NBA stadiums, or NBA arenas, excuse me. And then Oklahoma City is kind of weird. They have kind of, proposed the idea of either a massive renovation to their arena or a new arena altogether. The whole Oklahoma City thing is really weird because everyone kind of loved Chesapeake when Oklahoma City was good, but that was an arena that was originally built, not like, it was very bare bones. So they're at the point where they need an upgrade. They have a limited number of suites. It's one of the cheapest stadiums or cheapest arenas in the NBA. I'm guessing OKC will be doing something in the mid-2020s. All net resort and arena. That's an expansion Las Vegas retractable roof arena. I don't think it's happening. It's an entire resort for $5 billion. Yeah, it's the construction on it has technically started, but it's that's a dead project. I know a dead project when I see one. I think that's going to be an abandoned project very soon. FedEx Forum renovation. So Memphis has talked about $350 million being allocated towards the Forum getting a facelift and possibly, I would say, natural light being let into it. Moving on to the NHL, you've got Ottawa's new arena that is currently being planned. Hopefully we get an update on that. You have the Coyotes' new arena complex. That's obviously probably not happening. That's probably going to be an abandoned project. It did fail the vote. That was a $2.1 billion area with condos, with everything. And it's probably not happening, and they're going to have to move out of Arizona. The Calgary Event Center possibly opening in 2027. I don't think that's been confirmed. It's a $1.2 billion project. And then the two expansion teams, the new Atlanta arena that's planned outside of Atlanta, and then the new Houston arena, which is actually, originally they were saying if Houston gets the NHL if Houston gets the Coyotes, they would just play at the Toyota Center. But now people are saying they might want to have their own NHL arena in Houston. So that's just a theory. We'll have to see if that happens. And then I did include some college football here. The Beaver Stadium rebuild, $700 million. That's a lot of money to allocate towards a rebuild. It's going to be a complete redesign. I wonder if they do include some type of overhang as well. I think that could be the next big thing to college football. The new Miami Stadium at Tropical Park, is that going to be built? We don't know. There's really no update on it. The last thing I heard was they wanted to build it by 2025. Obviously, that's not happening. The new Aloha Stadium in Hawaii, that thing cannot get funding. Maybe it gets built by 2029. I don't know. They've had to delay it. The Nealon renovation currently under construction right now, and over the next few years, they're actually doing a lot to Nealon. They want to put in a hotel that's connected to the stadium as well. The new Ryan Field, about to be under construction, $800 million. Beautiful new stadium for Northwestern. Fresno State possibly getting a major facelift and a completely new type stadium, almost like a rebuild, costing $250 million. Kansas, they need a big facelift. They had a decent season last year in football. I'm sure they will find the funding and actually renovate it, but right now it's in the planning phase. And Memphis, to go along with the FedEx Forum, the Liberty Stadium, which is the college football team stadium, could possibly be getting a big renovation. And then the Carrier Dome roof, which is a see-through roof installed at the Carrier Dome. We don't know if, that's probably not happening. That was designed back in like 2018, but I just threw it on there. So we'll have to see what ends up happening there. And then if it's a project does get abandoned, I'll just move it down here to the abandoned projects. And then I do have a relocation alert on how worried do teams need to be about possibly losing, their team. You know, you've got Oakland A's fans, stress level high, very likely moving to Vegas. You've got Tampa Bay Rays. I would say they should be stress level medium, possibly relocating to Orlando. Arizona Coyotes, yeah, probably relocating maybe to Houston. Florida Panthers, I would say the stress level for them right now is low, but they do have a bad arena, maybe Quebec City. You've got the Jaguars in the NFL, stress level low. I could see Austin, Texas really making a play, getting together a group for an NFL franchise. If Jacksonville, I actually misspelled Jacksonville's name there, I believe. Did I? Yeah, I believe I did. Jacksonville. Okay, so and then New Orleans Pelicans, I would say right now stress level low. But it's like something has to give with New Orleans. Their lease is coming up soon for their arena. It's crap. If you're going to extend, you have to get a new arena or you have to get an upgrade somehow. They need a renovation. So I think the NFL or the NBA is going to be like, listen, you need to do something. It's the same thing with Sacramento. They had a dump and they basically said either get a new arena or we're moving your team. And Sacramento ends up building the Golden One Center and the rest is history. And now they're thriving. So that is just an update on all of the stadiums in 2023. I'm sure I missed a few projects. What are you going to do? It's hard to get everything. But if somebody wants to comment, I was thinking about what was the one? Oh, maybe the Soldier Field idea. I might add that to go along. And then one of the projects will happen, whether it's the new Soldier Field or just the Bears Stadium. And then I possibly also want to add in photos somehow, like a link to all the photos, but I don't really know how to do that. What I want to do is just like put photo 1 and then have a link and then just click on the tab and then opens up the image. The problem is it opens up an entirely new website when I attach links to this spreadsheet. So I'm going to have to find a way to not have a website open and just have the image open, and I could have all the rendering photos over here for all these projects. Preferably, that's what I would do. But that is just kind of the update on all of the, I didn't do college basketball. I probably will expand it to college basketball as well. Probably not MLS, but I mean, if somebody wants to, do this and help me out with it, I would, maybe share it. But I really don't want it edited very much just because there's really no reason to edit it. It's just like the projects are going to happen or they're not. And this takes time, It's like the Browns Stadium got announced a month ago and we haven't heard anything since. So the rebuild, it takes time for the news to come out. It's not something that happens. It's like not every day you're going to hear something. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.